final edition of lcpioneers.com Live, presented by Pio Stream for this week, week 13 of our show. Big happy Friday to you. We broadcast Tuesday through Friday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Time, keeping you connected with student athletes, coaches, alumni, and members from the Lewis and Clark College community as we get into the summer months and get prepared for the upcoming fall semester 2020. Hi, everyone. I am Ryan Goff. I am the play-by-play voice and director of athletic communications for Lewis and Clark. We are the Pioneers, based out of Portland, Oregon, member of the Northwest Conference's NCAA Division III ranks, and opportunity for our student athletes to compete against other institutions from throughout Northwest Oregon and the state of Washington, and with over 430 institutions competing on the NCAA D3 level, a chance for our student athletes to compete on a nationwide scale as well. With Lewis and Clark also sporting a very robust overseas study program, so our students and student athletes alike chances to experience, overseas study, get to experience different cultures. A really great opportunity for everyone who comes to Lewis and Clark. Today, we're going to introduce you to someone that you may have never heard of, but you definitely need to know of because she's been a long-time ombudsperson at Lewis and Clark. We'll talk to Valerie White and get an understanding of the services that her office provides the Lewis and Clark College community. And that includes parents, too. It's something that, as I was reading through the description of the office, it's really neat that it's something for the on-campus community, but also, too, for parents and with students coming from so many different states and countries. I think that's a really valuable service. So we'll kind of get an understanding of what she provides, how she got to Lewis and Clark, and ask some questions that you can also have in our comments below, Facebook Live comments, or via email, sports@lclark.edu. We also invite you to keep connected through our social media channels, including Instagram and Twitter. LC Pioneers is how you connect with us there. A couple of things to update you on that's going on through the Lewis and Clark athletics community. That includes Sean Richardson, a recently graduated senior for cross country and track and field, earned Academic All-America. He is the first Pioneer student athlete to earn Academic All-America through COSIDA since 2002, when Neil Weir was the last Pioneers student athlete to get that recognition. We've had a lot of different all-district selections, but to become an All-American, you have to be part of the all-district first team. And the region that Oregon is in is with 20 other states. And so it's a really large geographical space to even get that first team recognition, which Sean did last month. But now an academic All-America selection as well kind of caps off an outstanding career for him. You can read more about that at lcpioneers.com. Also, check out our new recruits. We just recently announced the softball student athletes who will be joining us on Palatine Hill. That's at lcpioneers.com. Last but not least, our YouTube channel includes a playlist of past lcpioneers.com live shows. Dates back to the last day of March, so you can go to lcpioneers.com/live to watch the show with us in real time, Tuesday through Friday at 11:30. But also watch our shows archived and on demand at youtube.com/lcpios. So with all of that said, let's bring in our guest for today. Again, the Ombudsperson for Lewis and Clark, Valerie White, joining us on lcpioneers.com live. Valerie, thanks so much for making time for us on a Friday. Looking forward to learning about some of the things that you provide as the Ombudsperson at Lewis and Clark. Let's start with that. What is it that your office provides the Lewis and Clark College community at large?
So thanks, Ryan, so much for inviting me to come in and have a chat with you and all the folks that are listening in or see this later. You know, as I was thinking about what do I say about who I am and what happens in my office, I wanted to say that I've been part of the Lewis and Clark community since 1994, which I still find remarkable. I started as an adjunct in the graduate school, and then I was the associate dean there, and then the acting dean for a few years before I went off to work at another university, and then came back in 2008 to start the Ombuds Office. It's an unusual place or office, I should say, to find in some campuses. And some people, for example, don't even know how to say the word. So it's began as ombudsman, and at Lewis and Clark, I'm the ombudsperson. And we've had the office now for 13 years. And when I say we, I mean me or we, the campus. It's a confidential place that people can come and talk completely off the record unless there's something that's about to happen that I think somebody's life is at risk. But we chat about whatever is on someone's mind. Usually, there's a problem that someone's having or a difficult situation where folks just want to get some perspective about how to approach it. So I see all kinds of things. And as you said, in addition to working with students, I work with parents sometimes, I work with faculty and staff too.
Elaborate on your history, as you mentioned, it started with being an adjunct at Lewis and Clark. I wonder if you can give us some perspective on what was it about the opportunity even to start the Ombuds office and be the first Ombuds person that it was appealing to you, and the chance to get back to Lewis and Clark. Kind of give us an idea of why that was important to you.
Well, one of the things I'll say is that of all the things I've done in my life, and I've done several, I've been a banker, I have a consulting practice, I've felt particularly alive in a classroom. And so, because education is important to me, and because I love being in a classroom, when the opportunity presented itself, that Lewis and Clark was thinking about starting an ombuds office to have a place where people could go to talk through things that were on their mind and to help people figure out where to take their issues if they weren't things with which I could deal. It was to be part of the Lewis and Clark community again, which I had found really satisfying. It's a smaller campus, and so it's possible to get to know students and to work directly with them. And it's possible to really know your colleagues and faculty members and folks like that. But to be a part of an organization, an institution that really is committed to creating what we say global citizens, local citizens who are fairly, fully alive and interested in how to bring their talents to the challenges and opportunities that we face in the world.
Valerie White, our guest on lcpioneers.com live, an award-winning ombudsperson who oversees the Ombuds Office at Lewis and Clark. Well, I say that to kind of highlight, again, the great opportunity our community has to, interact with you, Valerie, and have a chance to have a space. And I'd like to elaborate on the idea of parents, because when I read that, my brain started going in a lot of different directions, thinking of how useful that might be for parents of students and student athletes who are from all over the nation, all over the world. Uh, Kind of why is it that your office is available to parents, and how is it valuable to that group of our community?
So I'm available to folks if whoever's part of our community, and parents certainly would fit in that category. They're welcome to call and talk. I imagine there might be some prospective students or current students who are thinking they can talk to my parents. And what I would say about that is we obviously have limitations about what we can share with parents or guardians and other people in our students' lives who have real concerns about how their student is doing, or they want to give us a heads up. But I'm limited in what I can say unless I've had a release signed. So for the students who just got, you just got their attention when you said that, I'd say, don't worry, it's just between you and me unless you tell me otherwise. When parents call, it's often that they're trying to find a way to maneuver through the community. They may have talked with someone in our community, a staff person or a faculty member, where there was a little more information they needed, or they wanted a confidential place to, a person with whom to talk, to frame their ideas and their questions, maybe before they had a difficult conversation. And so I would say, just like I can be a resource to any of the other folks in our community, sometimes it helps to go to someone that you can talk to just bounce ideas off of in service of someone we care about.
Now, our show is through an athletics lens a lot of times with our student athletes and our coaches and alumni. I can imagine some scenarios where a student athlete could approach you with some challenges that maybe are unique to the world of student athletes as opposed to the student body at large. What are some examples of types of conversations that you've had with the student athlete population?
Well, they certainly have the same challenges and opportunities that all the other students may face throughout their communities. But I think that our student scholars and athletes have particular issues sometimes because they've often come to us as members of lifelong communities in which they've played sports and been athletes. So I've found that sometimes people seek me out, and it's not unusual for parents during Parents Weekend who want to talk about the transition to campus and life at Lewis and Clark. I mean, in the athletics department, there are a number of fantastic resources that athletes have and that parents would have access to explore some of the things that come up. But sometimes they want to talk about what they're thinking about with somebody who has nothing to do with athletics. And so it may be when they're coming in, it's not unusual for students to come in towards the end of their time at Lewis and Clark as they're thinking about making that transition as lifelong learners to athletics in what's been such a big part of their lives for so many years, to see how to transition that into something that they continue to be in the vicinity of the rest of their lives. It's also not unusual to have students who come and chat when maybe there are some personal things that are happening at home. Again, that they don't necessarily want to talk with anyone else at Lewis and Clark about because they're concerned about privacy and anonymity and things like that. And sometimes they're concerned that these challenges might at some point affect the way in which they play their sport.
And you have a space that obviously students and everyone else in the community can approach for a variety of reasons. But there's an element of this neutrality, right, in how you approach those conversations. Walk us through where the idea of being neutral can be really helpful.
Appreciate that question. As an ombuds person, one of the things that we wrestle with and do presentations about when we talk to each other at conferences and such is what it means to be impartial, or what does it mean to be neutral, because it's one of the core tenets about how you practice being an ombuds. The idea is that you don't want to bring, or it's not helpful to the other person, to bring your own perspectives into the conversation that you're having. My job is to help the person with whom I'm talking figure out what's in their best interest or what they need or want, and then to help them find ways that are going to work for them. And so we try hard to stay out of our own way. That said, it's really hard and it may be impossible to be utterly impartial or neutral. I mean, I'm African American. I'm a cis woman. I actually lived in Japan for 4 years as a kid. My dad was in the military, so I'm what is known around the world and at Lewis and Clark as a third culture kid. And so I'm fully aware that I bring those perspectives to my work. Um, and being aware of it, it also sometimes helps me set them somewhat to the side or to pay attention when I think they're beginning to get in the way.
You're watching lcpioneers.com live, presented by PioStream. We are on Tuesday through Friday at 11:30 live on Facebook, and also available on demand to watch youtube.com/lcpio. This is Valerie White, our guest today, the Ombudsperson at Lewis and Clark. And you alluded to the idea of lifelong learning earlier. And I think about Lewis and Clark, one thing that I enjoy about the experience our students get is the opportunity to become, well-rounded. How is it that you see both maybe through the lens of ombuds, but also having, taught at Lewis and Clark in the past as well? How do you see Lewis and Clark and its role in trying to make that well-rounded human when they leave their student time at Lewis and Clark?
It's interesting to me that one of the perspectives that I bring to my work is a strong commitment to both lifelong learning and whole person learning, meaning that we pay attention, or it helps when you pay attention to the person's mind, and we sure do that because we load our students up with ideas, our hearts, our feelings and emotions, our bodies, and that would be especially relevant in for the people that are listening today, and our spirits, which can be the way in which we experience our spiritual selves, or we think about the values that drive us. And so it's not unusual that students will come in, or faculty or staff, whoever, parents, and they have one thing on their mind, and as they talk it becomes um, clear to me, where I want to check out an assumption that there might be something that they're missing in one of the other dimensions. And so at Lewis and Clark, students have an opportunity through their coursework, through what some folks call extracurricular activity, whether it's working through some of our religious and spiritual life programs, our one of my favorite clubs we ever had, I don't think we have it anymore, is the Cheese Club. And so it can be looking for the ways in which you can tap into the pools that help you experience yourself in a different way, and that maybe opens doors and ways of seeing that help you through the thicket that you're facing, or the way in which you head as you move from this to that.
I'm telling you, if there was a cheese club and there is no longer, that is something that we need to work on getting back and going. But
It
that
was
is,
great. There were hundreds in line at the year-end event.
and I think though that's a great point too. Experiential liberal arts learning, and part of that is again, yeah, high level, a ton of opportunities to find like student organizations that kind of fit something that you're interested in. I've always admired that about our students, having the opportunity to do that with their peers. And you had talked about this earlier, because I was reading about kind of your past experience, and understanding that you were very well traveled early in life because of the military aspect. And one thing I like about Lewis and Clark is you bring, even from a student athlete perspective, people from over 35 different states, and that broadens out as you look at the whole student body. Um, Being well traveled yourself, what is it about being exposed to so many different backgrounds that maybe even you get at Lewis and Clark in a way, because you're getting someone from the East Coast or from the South or from the Midwest coming to Portland, Oregon? How is that valuable for an experience to learn from others?
Well, speaking for myself, I can say as a military brat, we moved a lot. And I grew up in a family where, on my mother's side, they'd been here for a couple hundred years. And on my dad's side, they had immigrated from the Caribbean, from Barbados, the generation before his. So just in my own family, I had the chance to see different cultures going on, even though I didn't know that that's what it was. When we moved to Japan and I was 8 years old, I was instantly plunged into a community that was really different than mine. And I think the questions I faced, or the things I wondered about, opened me to help me understand that there often are different perspectives and ways of seeing and being. It's one of the reasons that I love being at Lewis and Clark, is that we do emphasize the opportunities to travel other places. For 19 years, I taught at a university in France in the summer. And the things that I learned from my French and German and North African students really shaped the ways I saw things and thought about things. And it's not unusual for people to seek me out as an ombudsperson, because the word is out that when I teach, I often teach about things related to cultural perspectives, which can include both travel to different regions in our country. I started out in the Northeast, and we lived in Southern California and Hawaii, and then the Northwest. And those places can often bring different perspectives in addition to all the other things that we see and know. So folks will come in and say, I think I have this thing going on, and I'm wondering if there's a cultural dimension to it in addition to whatever else is happening. And that's something that we can explore together.
Valerie, I really appreciate you taking some time. This is one of those moments where if our show lasted an hour, I no doubt imagine we get a lot of good information. But uh, I'm curious if someone wants to contact you either after this interview or just have it in the back of their head so that if they need your services, what's the best way to contact the Ombuds office?
I think maybe the fastest way is to call my office number, strangely enough, even though I'm not there. And that number is 503 768 7336. And what happens when you call that number is you get my voicemail, you leave a message, and it shoots straight to my email. And I usually see those notifications more quickly than some of the ways in which you also could reach me. My email address, if you want to contact me directly that way, is valeriew at lclark.edu. VALERIEW.
Valerie White, thank you so much for
You
taking the
bet.
time today, and look forward to having you maybe on a future episode. If nothing else, I can't wait to see everyone back on campus sometime soon.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Same here. Thanks so much and hope to hear from some of your listeners. I love to talk.
Yeah, Valerie, it's a lot of fun. Great conversation today, and I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. And that's something, we certainly encourage everyone to do, and we put that phone number in the Facebook Live comments, 503 That way you can get a hold of her directly if something about our conversation today helped you become aware of what she provides. Certainly something that we encourage you to take advantage of as well. Next week, a kind of a wild card week. We're not entirely sure yet what it'll look like. We may have some rerun shows. We may have Coach Ange joining us. Could be a lot up in the air. So what we encourage you to do is go to Facebook via our live link, lcpioneers.com/live. That's the easiest way to get to the page, and we'll post the future shows and our future guests as soon as that we have the option. But what I do like about talking to our Lewis and Clark community members is we cross post this show live on all of our team pages on Facebook too. So I see, yeah, we've had about 10 or 12 viewers at once during the stream. That's one thing that's nice about this is perhaps you're also learning for the first time that the show is here. And if that's the case, I definitely encourage you to go to our YouTube page, youtube.com/lcpios, and that's where you can watch all of our past shows. It's available as a playlist too. And one of the beauties of YouTube is once you're in there, clicking on the playlist, it starts playing the next show and the next show. So it's also a type of show that's formatted well for if you're just listening to the show too, kind of a la a podcast. You can do that at youtube.com/lcpio. So big thanks to Valerie White for joining us. Again, look in the Facebook feed for information and links to the Ombuds office at Lewis and Clark. Big thanks to you for watching. I'm Ryan Goff. Thanks for having fun with us. We will talk to you again for more lcpioneers.com live next week. We are Tuesday through Friday at 11:30. Until then, goodbye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
I think everyone should take intro to chemistry because the chemistry department here is phenomenal. Everyone I've known has had a good experience with everyone in that department, so I think it's a worthwhile course to take.
What is one class that everyone should take at Lewis and Clark? I really enjoyed education in a complex world. You kind of get to discuss all the issues that exist within education today, and you get to kind of explore that by going to classrooms firsthand and volunteering with children, which I thought was a really wonderful experience.
One class that everybody should take at Lewis and Clark is anything with Kundai Trundo. I think he definitely changed how I thought about rhetoric and media studies and just education in general.
For me, it was international affairs, just intro to international affairs, because I think it really gives a good perspective on important issues around the world.
Hi, I'm Nick Lombardi. Something I've learned at Winterim this year is how to communicate a vision.
My biggest takeaway from Winterim is probably the networking. Getting to talk to everybody, connect with people for the future is one of the most valuable things, and I did Winterim last year, came back for more this year.
I think a way in which my liberal arts education has really helped me and my group formulate our ideas is that concept of critical thinking and having many different backgrounds, me being an econ major and my two group mates being chemistry majors, we really get that well-rounded background, well-rounded ideas.
I think overall it's absolutely worth doing. You find yourself not only being more prepared for, say, well, this next semester, on top of being more prepared for life in general.